All right, I can see just enough to give me, to let me know where things are. Because now I'm going to take my pen. I'm using a Micron 005. You could use whatever you like. But now I'm going to go in and just start to put the perimeter of my bird. I'm not terribly happy with this right here because I can see that. And this is another opportunity to correct things. I'm looking, I made his head too flat, I think. So what I'm going to do, I don't want to commit to his beak yet. So I'm going to ignore his beak. And so when I do birds, yeah, we'll do this one. So when I do birds and I'm putting in the perimeter of the bird, I rarely, sometimes I will, if I know I need a hard line, I will put one continuous line. But birds are mostly textured on the perimeter, because even the birds that have, like ducks, whose feathers are real smooth, still have like a little bit of a texture. So I like to put it in as, so I'm putting in basically short lines like this, and I vary them in length, and I just make them real light. I space them apart different ways. The closer the lines are spaced together, the darker the line. The farther apart they're spaced, the lighter the line. And that is important when you have sunlight or light. So our light source is, hold on, where's our light source coming from? Our light source is hitting them like this. So this edge, I'm not going to want to have a sharp line. I'm going to want something a little bit more broken. So I'll put a little bit of that texture farther apart. Okay, so what I'm noticing that I have done is I have made his head too flat right here. So I'm not going to commit to anything yet. So I'm leaving that very light and just kind of adjusting some of the angles that I see. Try to make that a little rounder. Okay, so I'm seeing he's got a little bit of feather coming out. And then there's feather coming out here and here. And I'm always working in the direction of the feathers. Okay, here's his throat. And then this, because the light's going to be hitting here and it's white, so I probably don't want to put a solid or even put this, together too much. So I'm really paying attention, not trying to capture every feather, I'm capturing the impression of every feather. So where I see kind of an interesting feather texture, like kind of, so his feathers will open kind of up the way they lay on, if you were facing us forward, you kind of lay in a break like this. And there's kind of an interesting little ruffling that's happened right here, so I wanted to capture that. And then the same kind of going back here. All right, I'm going to move to the other side of the bird before I start on the bottom. Right. So I may have exaggerated that angle a bit, so I'm going to put that down. And here's, it's a little tricky because of the white on the edge. So again, I make it real light and broken. And I'm kind of, this area is confusing because of his feather pattern, but there is a break where it's his back again. And then right here, you have a feather, a wing, sorry. Of course you have feathers, he's a bird. There's a bit of right here. Not 100% happy with that, but that's okay. So I keep looking back at the bird. I'm going to work on this. So there's a bit of a shadow right here where his feathers attached to his beak area. There is a smooth line right here. Bit of a broken line. And then this kind of comes up. And there's some feathers there. And then they change directions a little bit, and they come down and wrap around his head that way. Right. And then this kind of comes down. Now at this point, I'm actually going to zoom in on the bird's face, because I have already penciled in the groups. Now I just want to refine the details, and I'm going to put in the color markings. This is one of the things that made it so much fun to do him. Okay, so I'm just checking that angle again, because here I do have to commit to a hard line. So it's coming that way. All right. Now, because the sun is on that top part, again, I'd make it real light and not a solid line. And now the bottom. Okay, I'm happy with how that's working. Now this can be a solid line. And he's got some black feathers this way. Just going to put them in. This up here. Feathers. Trying to keep it going in the direction. And I'm kind of splitting his throat feathers right here, not in any overt way, but just making sure that's where I know it wraps around his head. Okay. And I'm just kind of giving myself a few landmarks. And checking the angle of that white strip, because I didn't put that in, and that was on purpose. So it's got a little bit, and then